This is an introduction to some PID customizations. So just to let you know where to find it, if you go to your tool palette, if it doesn't show up, say you've got plumbing up, you just need to click on the spine up here. You might also see the spine on the side. Just right click on that and choose PID. It's structured like our other palette, so there's the common tab with all of the common blocks on it. And then there's a tools palette with tools that can be used throughout all the various blocks and other items. Then there's lines that has the major line layers and additional line types. Valves is pretty self-explanatory. It's got valves, controls, and actuators. Fittings have line fittings. Equipment has major equipment. INST is for instruments. Finally, non-ENG is for non-engineering items, things like flow arrows, reference flags, and that sort of thing. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new sheet. Now that I've got my sheet up, I'm going to activate my tool palette. So let's load our layers and set our scale. So everything in the palette is designed to work at a 1:1 scale. In paper space, I believe it can be used in model space, but it's designed for paper space. You can load all your PID layers here. There aren't very many of them, but if we have a look at them, they're the layers beginning with D. And let me pull up my layer dialog. And you'll see there's a description of what the layer is for over here in the description column. So when you click on line, it's going to set the main process line layer current, and it's going to prompt you to draw a line, and you can continue drawing until you hit enter or escape. And I'm going to come to my non-ENG and add my flow arrow. When I add the flow arrow, you can see that it snaps to the direction of the line and changes orientation depending on how you approach the line. I'm going to hit return for another one. And also in this section, we have the reference flag. Next thing I'm going to do is go back to the lines tab and add my line tag. Click on the line tag and you'll see this dialog box. This line appears the current settings, and then we've got pipe size. So I'm just going to pick the first item in each list. Yeah, I'm not a designer like you guys. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just picking values. When I hit OK, you'll see all those values populate in the tag. The gray text is a field, which means that it's information linked to something else. In this case, all of those fields are linked to other attributes within the tag. The attributes within the tag break out the information provided by the dialog so that it can be easily extracted for reports. This also enables you to easily change the tag and what values are in the tag. So if I go back to my edit line tag, I can set that to 0. Anything you set to blank will simply be removed to the tag. So I hit OK. See the installation values are missing. By default, the tag is going to have the PID number in it. But if I go back into my tag, click on that, and I go to settings, you can see they can check off the PID number. When I hit update, PID number is removed. That's a value for all tags within the drawing. These lists are set automatically. They are equal to the lists on the cover sheet. So I got them from here. And they should be the same as what you see on this in your standard cover sheet. If I add another tag, say to this line, you'll see that the tag rotates. If this line is a continuous line, they should have the same values. You can click this parent button and click the original, and you'll see that the whole thing is now a field. And when I go and I edit this line tag, any changes I make here, so I change it here, will automatically be updated here. So if you look at the attribute values for this tag, you'll see that everything is blank except the top value, because that value is linked back here. The philosophy behind all of these customizations is that information is stored in a single place and then referenced in other places. So the PID number is stored in Tools, Settings, right there. I change the value, and then I need to put that value back in. You can see the PID number is changed in all of the tags. I change it back. It's updated in all the tags. So the idea is the information comes from one place, and everything shares that information. To make it easier for you to coordinate, make your drafting life a little bit easier, I'm going to go back in and check. Let's go back to editing on line tag. See that all of the tag editing routines are found not just in the individual palettes, but also in the tools palette. Edit line tag. If I edit a child tag, you'll get this notification. You can choose to edit the parent. So if I go and edit parent and I change this back to 3 inches, you'll see that it's changed there as well. Now, if I click here again and I hit break link, now I set that to 2 inches. You'll see that that is set to 2 and that is set to 3. So now there's no link between them. They're separate values. You can always undo that by going back, hitting parent, selecting the original. So that saves you, if you had a line that had several of these tags on it, saves you from having to edit all 3 or 4 or however many. You can edit 1 and they all update. Now, if you had another line up here, you wanted to add another line tag, but you wanted similar but different values, you can click Inherit. Click the line tag you want to inherit from, and then you've got all the values in there. You can simply change one, and now you can see that the values are the same except for the line number. The lines themselves are just AutoCAD lines. They don't have any information in them. All the information about the line is stored in the tag. If you need a different kind of line, you can go down here. You've got, for instance, instrument lines or other types of line types. If you click on one, it'll work just like the main line up here, except that the layer isn't set. It's just setting the line type. So whatever layer you have set currently, that's what that line type will be set to. If you need a line type that isn't on this list, you can click Other Line Types and then choose from all the standard line types in the Genesis standards. So click Vendor Package, and I can draw a line on that line type. Also, if we go to edit line tag, you've got some view options here. If I click line break and hit OK, you'll see that it's now broken into 2 lines. This radio button list here, this column, enables you to decide where you want the break to happen. So if I click there, it's going to break at the pipe material. Click OK. So now it's broken like that. If I come back here, click uncheck that, and you'll see that it's back to a single line. If I go here and I hit line break on, you'll see that the child does not change its display value, so that you can have different line tags displayed differently. But you can also flip this one to 2 lines just by using the flyout. Additionally, you'll see this little arrow here. There are several standard offsets, so it defaults to this one, but you can also use this little line to move it off. Say you just need a little bit more space, you can move it up by a standard amount so that maintain consistency and visibility consistency. And then lastly, if you just don't have enough space and you need a leader, the standard leader command will work. So LDT is for leader dot 2. I pick the tag, and you can see it draws a leader from the tag. You can find leaders up here in the common menu. So you've got leader 2, leader from, leader dot, and leader loop. To and from are just regular arrows. Leader dot is this one here. The shortcut for that is LDT. So I mentioned that there are lists that the line tag reads from. All of these lists are set by default, and you'll see down here when they're reading the default lists, it'll say list source default. But if your project needs a special value, needs to edit these values or needs an additional value, you can click Edit Lists. You'll see this notification. Project lists are currently set to default. Would you like to make them editable? If I hit yes, you'll see file successfully copied to project. The list file is a text file on the standards folder. When you click yes and make the list editable, it copies the list to the project directory. When I hit OK, you'll get this dialog, and there are several lists in here. I go to service and I click on Argon and I say, call this Argon 2, hit update. Okay. When I go back to edit my list, you'll see that Argon 2 is now on the list. You can also find edit lists on the tools palette. Let's go back to now. If I just want to add one, I can hit add. And you'll see Argon 2 is now added to the list as well as Argon. And when I go back to edit my line tag, I have Argon 2 and Argon as well. So each of the 3 lists in this dialog can be edited in that way. Once the lists are made editable per project, they are instantly available to all the drawings within that project. All of the drawings in the project read from a single list. So if lists have not been editable, they will all read from the default. If they have been made editable, they will all read from the project list file. All right, moving on to valves. All the valves are dynamic blocks, so when you have a valve, you insert it. you'll see that flyouts, and you can change the valve display to any available valve. To number a valve, click on the number valve routine, and you'll get a dialog box similar to the line tag routine. If I want to set the valve to 1, by default, PID number is set to show. I'm going to set this size to 2 inches. You're going to choose Argon from the service code. Click OK, and you'll see PID number and valve number listed. Notice that it did not show you the size of the valve. If I go back to my valve number routine, click on the valve, see this little show option. If I click on that, now the size of the valve is shown. If I click there, the PID number is not shown. And then up here under valve abbreviation, I can hit my various valve options. I'm going to hit check valve. Again, the valve number format is designed to match the cover sheet. Let's add another valve. When I add another valve, I can inherit from the last valve I entered. So I can make that also a check valve with the Argon service. I can then set that differently. And then if I click next, it's going to give me the next available valve number. It inherited the valve size. Now that valve size is wrong. If I want to add another valve, let's just add this needle valve. Go back to the valve numbering routine. I can click inherit, and I can also inherit from the line tag. And now it inherited the Argon value and the size of the pipe. So while these two valves had a 2-inch, this one got the size directly from the line tag. I'm just going to put a larger number in for the valve number. And then if you want the PID number to be off by default, you can go back to settings under tools, valve settings, uncheck PID number. And now when I add a valve, you see that include and tag for PID numbers off. I'm going to once again inherit from the line. And then I'm going to click this next to valve number. You'll see this is a list of all the valves. Any number that has been used is marked as used. I can pick any number from the list here, click OK, and that number will appear in my valve number. And there's the valve number. I can also if I go back to list and I hit next greatest, it's going to give me the next greatest value of the list, which will be 11. Now that works differently from this next number. So next greatest will give, in this instance, it will give 12. But if I hit this next, it will find the next available number in this list. So in this instance, it'll give me 3. So if I just hit next, it's going to give me the next available free number. Hit OK. Now, if you need to add a control to a valve, the idea is for this to be as flexible as possible to give you, but know that PIDs are have very dynamic set of standards. There are lots of them. So the idea behind the system is to make it consistent, allow you to input information from single sources that then can be shared across the drawing, but also to make it as flexible as possible. For that, we've got, for instance, under controls, rather than inserting an individual block, it's going to prompt you to select the block to add the control to when I select the block. Now, when I double click inside the block, you'll see that the operator value has the pressure reducing regulator assigned to it. If I select this control, you see that they're two separate blocks, and I click change it to, say, manual operator, and then edit the valve, you'll see that the operator has been changed to manual operator. So it's directly linked to the visibility of the block that's linked to it. You can also add multiple controllers. So if I want to add this reduction filter, for instance, I can click on the block. It's going to prompt me whether I want to erase the original control or add it. Would you like to replace it? I'm going to say no. If you say no, it's going to add it to the block. If you need to remove one of these, you don't want to just erase it. You want to use this tool here. Select the block and then select what you want to erase. There it goes. And you'll see it's been removed from the list. You'll see when it is added, there is a list of the various controllers that attach to this valve. Now I'm going to move on to instruments down here, INST, and scroll down to the general instruments. Instruments have a similar numbering system from the other two systems we talked about, but unlike the other two, there is no set list of instrument abbreviations. The required list was too long and dynamic. So instead, it's first come, first serve. So if I click on this flyout, there's nothing there. But if I say I'm just going to give it the value 1, click OK. And then when I insert the next one, you'll see that 1 is in the list. And if I hit next, it'll increase to 2. If I add another one, and I'm just clicking on each block down the line, I don't know if they go together or not. But you'll see 1 is there again. And if I go to list, you'll see 1 and 2 are there. And if I click next greatest, you'll see 3. And if I change this to, say, 10, and then edit one in the list and go to list, you'll see once again the used values and the unused values. It works the same as the valves. Now, if I have an instrument and I give it a different value, so similar to Revit, the values don't appear in this list until you add it. So I'm just going to give it the value 2. Click OK. And now when I insert another instrument, this list now has 1 and 2. And the 2 list filters out everything in the 1. So see, there's only 1. And then if I go switch to 1, go to list, now we see the list of all the 1s. So I'm going to switch it to 2 and hit next. And there's my value. You can see that there's a field in here. That field is linked to a value in settings. So if I go back to tools and I go to settings, instrument settings, you see it's set to prefix. So that prefix number, if I can change it here, I can change what the prefix value is. I hit update, you'll see that they all update. I can set it to PID, hit update, and now they're all prefixed with the actual PID number. Come back here and click none, and now there's no prefix. Go back to instrument settings, and I'll reset. Now, if you were to copy information from an old project to a new project, there is a tool to help you update the standards from the old project to these new set of standards. So I'm going to open up an old project. I'm just going to grab some information from this project. Cut and paste. So here are the old standards, the old blocks. If I go back to my tool palette and I scroll down to update blocks, you'll see a bunch of settings. I'm going to hit old only, and I'm going to then hit continue and select the blocks. Some of the insertion points are a little off, but for the most part, they replace the blocks with the new blocks. Now, it doesn't grab the text and insert that information into the box, so you do have to then go back, and I would have to, for instance, put a number valve. You'll notice that the text size is different. The text size of all of the new system is set to 330 seconds with title set to 1/8. That's the company standard and the default system settings. This routine is not 100%, just so you know. It works on maybe 60% of the blocks from the old system, but the blocks have to be of the old system. It's a one-to-one relationship, so I need an original block to translate from, and then a new block to translate to. I need to have all the information from both of those things. If I don't have all the information, the routine will fail, or it just won't copy the block. It also won't work for lines. So here, we've got a reducer, but the reducer is made up of lines. It's not going to translate that. It is also not going to translate actual lines. The lines are just lines. There's no smart information about them. And if they're drawn on layer 0, it can't, there's no way for any program to know what they should be. So that's just something you have to do yourself. Also here, because this is a work in progress and changes are being made, you'll see in the update blocks routine, you can update new only. Just by default, it's going to do both, this option here, but you can choose new only. And if there has been an update to the blocks and you need to get that, you need the updated blocks in your drawing, you can use this routine to update the new blocks. Now, because these new blocks are all interconnected, when you copy blocks from one drawing to the next, you then have to update that drawing. So if I add a new drawing, I'm going to copy this information into the new drawing. You'll see these number signs, number sign, number sign, number sign. Number signs result from the fact that this has been moved to a new drawing and has nothing to reference. So when we go back to our tools and go to system settings, if you go to line tag settings and hit update, you'll see that all the line tags update. When I go to instrument settings and hit update, you'll see all the instruments update. So work in progress. There's no update for the valves yet, but that is coming quickly. That's a quick way to make sure everything stays connected when you move it between drawings. If you copy this value copy this whole thing here. It will still be linked. So as if you copy things in a group, it stays linked. But if you just copied 2 items, need to regen, because with fields you always need to wake AutoCAD up to tell it you've made a change. But you see how its reduction filter is still there? It's still linked to this guy here. So be careful. Oh, I erased this tag, and so this tag has lost its information. So be careful just copying things. If you go to remove valve operator, remove all, you can then link a valve operator with this tool here. So select the operator block, select the valve block, and now we go to valve. It's back. Equipment. So we've got all these nice equipment blocks. I'm going to insert a tank. So a nice tank here. At the top of the equipment, there's an equipment tag. You can insert it in the tank and give it a number. I don't know the numbering standards, but I'll just give it a number like that. You'll see that it is a fielded block. If I double click on it, the only information in it is the equipment number and then the display. The display has an underline, and the equipment number allows the number to be captured without any of that AutoCAD coding. Once you insert the tag there, you can also insert this equipment info tag. Place it down here. It's going to prompt you to select the equipment tag. I'm going to select the tag up there. And now you can see that another field, this field now is linked to this one. So if I make an edit to this value, and then I wake up AutoCAD with a regen, you'll see that that value changed. And so this value, they're dynamically linked. This block is also just made up of 2 attributes, the equipment number, which is linked to the tag, and then the equipment description, which is a multi-line block, multi-line attributes. So you can add your information as needed. There is discussion about setting up a template for different pieces of equipment. That is still in discussion. It is not, hasn't been executed yet, but that might be coming down the pike. If it does, it'll still be a multi-line attribute. It'll just help you with giving you this bit of information up here. I think the first value should usually be what the actual piece of equipment is, and then model description, etc. But that's, like I said, it's the system's close to being done, but there are still some tweaks and additions. If you say just copy this and you need to link it to a different piece of equipment, so say you've got tank number 3 here. You see that just by copying it, it's still linked to tank number 2. But if you come over here to your tools, you've got this link equipment info tag, going to prompt you to select the info block and then the piece of equipment to link to. You want to select the tag. And now when you come back down here, you can see it is updated. It's now linked to 3. Again, the idea is that the information is stored in one place. So the tag, the tank number is going to be stored in this tag, and then this info block references that tag. So if you change it in one place, it changes throughout the drawing. That's the idea behind the system. It's that horizontal tank. There it is. Now, if you needed to fittings, if you wanted to add a nozzle to this tank, you've got fittings here. Click on the nozzle, click on the tank, and then rotate it. And you see that the tank automatically comes in on the equipment layer. The nozzle automatically comes in on the device layer. If you needed to make this nozzle, we've got a bunch of different nozzles. So we've got like the double line nozzle here. If you needed to make this a tri-clamp, you've got a tri-clamp here. I'm going to zoom in. You see that if I picked right there on center, it's not going to give me what I want. But if you hit the control button, you'll see that you've got different snap points. So now it's snapping to the left, now it's snapping to the right, now it's snapping with an offset. So I could click here. Or click there. And now I've got a tri-clamp. Many of the blocks have different insertion points. And if you need to get to those different insertion points, you can just hit control, like I said. So if I go to valves, for instance, so it's going to default to the center. But if I hit control, now I'm offset to the right, and sorry, to the left, and offset to the right, and then back to center. Now, I don't know about all of you, but when I draft, I find that this auto rotation thing is a little glitchy. I often will get a block come in upside down. So if I go here, and remember this valve, you'll see that the value is up on the top here. If you need to rotate a valve as it didn't come in the orientation you want, you just use the rotate command. And then to get the attribute to rotate correctly, use the RATA command. That's RATA. And it'll rotate it correctly. So it's RATA. One last thing I want to touch on before I let you go is notes. So there are new note blocks for PIDs. If you want to add notes, you can go to your common menu. You've got this note reference column. You can insert that. And this is a non-plotting block. It's just a guide to help you align your notes. So if I go back to my PID tools, and you'll see that there's this PID notes. And it works just like all of the other notes that are up in the common ribbon. And if I start typing here, it'll format when I hit OK. It'll format that to fit underneath the line. And then PID keep note, I'm going to select the note I'm going to reference and then insert the note itself. And you'll see that instead of being a hexagon, it says note colon, and then that number is referenced to that note number. If you come up here to the common ribbon, you'll see the old sheet note, add note, key note, hexagon, that sort of thing. These all work the way they always have. In order to get these new settings, you have to come over here to the palette. Also on the palette are shortcuts to the standard symbol sheets. They're just the standard symbol sheets that are in the old process folder. As updates come, These will be updated as well. There are a couple other things in here that are, I would say, they're in process. So the valve report is one of those things that are under construction, but I'll show you at least the proof of concept. If I click on valve report, it's going to gather up the valve information in this drawing, and there aren't many valves in this drawing. There are apparently 6 of them, but it gets the information, extracts the information from the valves and fills out this form. So as we get more information, as this gets moving further along, this will become more robust, help you out, at least for getting your valves exported from your drawings. So like I said, this valve report thing is still a work in progress. It is currently being saved to the current directory, which I don't think is a good place to save it, but that's just where I have it being saved at the moment as I work on it. I was given a template. If that template's out of date, let me know. But all of this information is just part of the template I was given, and I did my best to relate the information saved in the valve block to the column heading. Any other questions? I'm going to note something else. Occasionally, and I don't know why, you'll get this drawing order thing. The valves don't actually break the line, right? This line is continuous. They have a wipeout in them that hides the line, but sometimes the valves get stuck behind the line. So if you go to under the valve section in your tools, you can hit fix valve draw orders in quotes, and you pick your valve and it'll just move it above the line and make sure everything looks nice and pretty. So again, thanks for coming. And if you have any problems with it or need any help with it, please reach out. Thanks.